Good afternoon, everyone. Grandpa was born in Uncie, Alabama, in a cotton house in the middle of a cotton field because that was where his mother, Granny, was working at the time. They had a nanny that also worked on the field, and she would nurse all of the children that were born there if the mother didn't produce any milk. So praise the Lord for this nanny, because if it wasn't for her, Grandpa wouldn't have made it 88 years due to no access to formula back then. And he would always share this story, so that's why I'm sharing it. Grandpa graduated from Frank W. Bretling Elementary School. He was Cowboy Gene. He picked cotton, milked and fed the cows, made butter off of the top of the fresh milk, and worked in the fields riding tractors and doing any kind of farm work that was necessary to take care of the land. Just for a dime a day, I believe is what he said he made. Then on was raised up in Grand Bay, Alabama, and went to Grand Bay Middle School until after the Great Depression, when his mother, father, and the 5 kids moved to Mobile, Alabama, where he spent the remaining of his childhood. Graduating from Mobile County High School on June the 1st of 1950. Grandpa enlisted into the service on November 28, 1949 with the Navy. After receiving an honorable discharge a few years later, he ventured out on his young adult life adventure to New Orleans. Somewhere in between high school years and graduation, he went on to begin his first paper job, as I like to call it, at Krispy Kreme Donuts, which was still his favorite place to get donuts from, which is why we enjoyed them here today. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Noni, Carissa, and thank you, Aunt Betty, for that. Grandpa and Grandma worked 2 and 3 jobs through their life just to provide for the family and live the life they wanted. No shame in their game. Grandpa would always say that Grandma saved his life. And helped the wonderful man he always was shine like the sun. He worked for many companies during his time, but the 3 that stuck out to me were Inland Steel, Douglas Guardian, and the Water Plant Engineered Science. When Grandpa got hired on to work for Douglas, he had no idea that he was going to meet the love of his life and live happily married until the end of their days. Grandpa's boss man was Mr. Steinmeier. He was German. I don't know why they always said the man was German, but that's what they said, so that's why it's here. Grandpa was Grandma's little boss, and on Grandma's first day, she went to walk up the big old cement block, and she fell, ripping her stockings and scuffing her shoes. I remember Grandma saying that Grandpa said, "Do it again, Ann." Grandpa said he didn't know she fell until she made it up the stairs. Then he told her some people are just really clumsy. And of course, Grandma said, "Yeah, So Grandma's first impression of Grandpa was, man, this guy isn't very nice. They worked many years together at Douglas, and that's also where he met his wonderful friend, Mr. Louie. I recall Grandpa's last job, where he retired from at Wastewater Management Engineered Service. Every once in a while, the plant would begin to smell, maybe about every month or so, but it would only stink for a day. Therefore, I would ask Grandpa why this happened and how he fixed it. So he would tell me that no one else wanted to get their hands dirty like he did. He would go inside of these big waste tanks with his protective gear on, of course, and unclog the waste from the drain hole with his hands. The machine could only do so much, and after some time it needed a little help so it could clean and filter the waste properly. Well, after his retirement, the plants began to stink so bad, and of course he wasn't there, so it just became a permanent smell. If you drive on West Napoleon and, Transcontinental and West Metairie, you'll still smell it here today. Grandpa finally asked Grandma on a date He wanted to take her to a bar up the road from Grandma's house on Dauphine Street, but Grandma said her mother would kill her if she knew he took her to a bar. So Grandpa said, "How about Musso's Lounge," which for lack of a better term is still a bar, but sounded better. So off they went to have alcoholic beverages and began getting to know one another. In the next couple of years, Grandpa proposed at her mother and daddy's house on Urquhart Street shortly after they got married in Chalmette on October the 14th, 1962. Grandma and Grandpa got married, and the two became one, and they stayed happily married for 57 years. They were actually together for 60. They brought two beautiful children into the world in the first decade of their marriage. Grandpa said that Grandma saved his life, but Grandpa also enhanced her life because Grandma hadn't been outside of New Orleans much, so Grandpa made sure she was going to see the world. They traveled most of the East Coast, went to the Four Corners, Arizona, El Paso, Mexico, New Mexico, and many more places where great memories were made. Going to Mobile, Alabama was a weekend tradition to go see Grandpa's parents, Granny and Pop. A lot of good memories were made in Mobile, and many children in the family grew up there. Grandpa never missed a day of work. If he didn't go to work, he had better be on his way to the hospital because something was seriously wrong. He never missed work. When Grandpa spoke of his younger years, he spoke of his uncle and grandparents quite often. He would tell us stories about being in the cotton fields as a boy eating snuff. I guess it was something that a lot of people did back in the day. When he would tell these stories, he would laugh and laugh. I used to be so confused about what he was actually saying because his younger days he spoke of was so foreign to me. But he enjoyed telling these stories so much he could hardly talk because he was laughing so hard. They will forever be embedded into my memory. Grandpa was a member of the Jefferson Rod and Gun Club in the 80s and 90s, where he was awarded a lot of trophies as well as caught some of his biggest fish. He was an avid fisherman for his entire life. Growing up, I can remember finding all of the plaques he had stashed in the kids' room, so I would try to hang them on the wall, and he would say, "Cheris Ann, you're going to have to hang those up all over the house because I have so many they won't all fit in your room." He would insist that I not hang them up because he had so many of them. So I met him in the middle, and I picked the best ones, and I hung them up in the kids' room. Grandpa was also a member of the Elks Lodge No. 30 for many years, where he met lifelong friends and built everlasting friendships. He would always go hang out with the guys on Thursday nights, I believe, at the lodge, just watching football and I guess talking about what was going on. I remember Grandpa doing this every week for at least 20 years, no telling how long before I came along. He also began to ride in the crew of Jefferson on the Elks Captain float through the lodge. I know Grandma and the two kids rode with Grandpa for many years on a regular float with the Elks prior to him riding on the Captain's float. Grandma used to share some fun times they had riding on Mardi Gras Day. And I didn't put the story in here, but if you know it, you know that it's a funny one. Grandpa and Grandma have some close friends for many, many years that would go out to eat every Tuesday night for decades. They did this. I mean, they were super faithful. They would take casino trips with just the guys and sometimes with the ladies also. Grandpa and Grandma always made sure we had home-cooked meals on the table for everyone every night. They never missed any school event for their own children, us grandchildren, and as well as the great-grandchildren. They were always present. They never let you down. Now, when the situation arose and you needed to be disciplined, well, Grandpa wasn't late on that either. They both went over and beyond their entire lives to make sure everyone in the family and friends, too, were always taken care of. Grandpa touched so many people's lives in their own special way. When he grew up, times were so different than what they are today. Grandpa lived a long, beautiful, healthy life, eating all the mayo, the salt, the TV dinners, the fried food, drinking all the beer, whiskey, and Mountain Dews, and any mixed soda he was feeling that day. He loved eggplant, calf liver, putting hot sauce on everything he ate, including his eggs. He never wanted to live one day longer than our sweet grandma. If anything can give each one of you any comfort, it is that he is with his beloved Annie. Grandpa was just completely broken since she left him almost 8 months exactly. He found joy when family and friends would visit, but he was still broken. He no longer has a broken heart and is spending eternity with Grandma and our Father in heaven. Yes, absolutely, I'm selfish and wanted him here with all of us, but it was not about me or any of us any longer. It was about him and what he wanted. To all the family and friends, we love you, and let's please continue to get together for cookouts in him and Grandma's honor. He will forever be in our hearts, and we have memories that will last a lifetime. If anyone else wants to share any memories that you had with Grandpa, please come up now. We'll be happy to hear it. And then also, for Grandma, we had a chance to pay last respects, so if it's okay with Father, if anyone wants to come up and do that now. Wait, what? Right, but I'm just saying, because if everybody leaves after they sing the song, if they want to come up now, that'd be